It's Tree Week, and hopefully you and your family are going to plant a tree this week in celebration of that. And we wanted to give you some tips on how to do that successfully. How to select a tree that you're going to be happy with, that's going to be happy in the site you pick, and how to pick the best tree when you're shopping, and how to actually get it in the ground. So today I'm here with Josh Kite. He's an extension associate in the Department of Horticulture at the University of Kentucky, and he specializes in nursery crops, which is great for where we are today.
All right, so we're here at Springhouse Gardens. It's one of the premier retail garden centers here in central Kentucky, and they have a very, very wide selection of trees. They have everything from native shade trees to ornamental trees to a great native selection and other ornamentals to plant in your yard.
When you're shopping for a tree, there are a lot of different options. There are different options in terms of what type of tree you could get. You could get a balled and burlap tree that's going to be wrapped and typically larger, heavier, but maybe give you a more permanent, established tree look right away. You could get a container grown tree that's going to be easier to move around, but also likely to have some roots that are circling inside that container that you'll want to prune before putting it into the ground. Or you could get a bare root seedling. Now those trees aren't going to come with a lot of soil, so those roots are really susceptible to drying out, and you've got to be careful to keep them moist before you plant them. But those are great trees and typically have really good root systems, so likely to thrive once they're in the ground. There's no right choice, just different options depending on what's available to you and what you want.
This is a ball and burlap tree. This tree was not grown here, so this was brought in from a nursery, hopefully here in Kentucky. So what you're seeing here is in the field, this tree is grown in soil. And so they come and harvest it with a piece of machinery called a tree spade. On the outside of it, you're gonna see a wire basket, you're gonna see burlap, and you're gonna see this string. So basically when it comes out of the ground, they're gonna already have a basket that's set there, and they're gonna have burlap setting in the basket. They're gonna take the tree spade with the tree in it after it's dug, they're gonna lower the tree down into the basket. And then the reason we're seeing some breakdown here, first off, this is what it's supposed to do. The burlap is supposed to break down, and since they're using an organic manila twine, that's supposed to break down as well. So basically, after you pick this up from here, if you were to purchase it, you're gonna take this to your house, and before you plant the tree, you're gonna, remove the rope out from around it, cut some of the burlap off from around the top, and then you're gonna wanna expose it and get it down to the buttress or the root flare. And then you're gonna wanna, there's a couple tricks that you can do to remove the wire out from around it. If your root ball is moist and it's falling apart, or if it's too dry and it's falling apart, you can leave the basket on it, but you're gonna wanna remove as much of the basket as possible, especially when you're rolling it in the hole. One of the easy ways that I like to do it is you lay the tree over on its side. You're gonna see on the bottom of a basket, there's gonna be some rungs that you can cut out. Remove all the rungs at the bottom, put it into a hole, and then take your bolt cutters and cut down the side of the basket. Then you can remove it and then backfill as needed to plant your tree correctly. This tree is what you call a container tree. It's a little bit easy, I'm not gonna say a little bit, it's a lot easier to handle than your ball and burlap tree. Not everybody wants to tackle a 2-inch, 2.5-inch, 3-inch ball and burlap tree. You've got your container tree, it's grown in a substrate, which means that it doesn't have any native soil with it. You're gonna take it home, you're gonna dig your hole, then you're gonna lay it on the side, and you're gonna take a razor blade knife and you're gonna cut down the side of the pot and expose the root system. First thing you're gonna do is you're gonna look at the root system, and it's gonna be making a bunch of circles around that. What you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna take a sharp knife and you're gonna wanna cut down each side about 4 times and expose those roots and rough them up, and then you're gonna wanna plant it, then you can put it in your hole at the proper planting depth.
There are so many different choices for great species, and it depends on what you want. You need to match what you're looking for in terms of your goals. Do you want beautiful fall leaf color? Do you want a big shade tree? Maybe do you have power lines overhead and you need something that's going to stay a little bit smaller? There's no one right tree, but there are good trees for your site and trees that are not such good selections. So keeping that in mind when you're shopping will make you happier with the final outcome.
This tree that we're looking at right here is a Quercus macrocarpa, or otherwise a bur oak. You can't get any more Kentucky than this. These are the big trees that you see out in the majestic trees that you see out in the middle of horse farms and big paddocks. So we were walking through the nursery, and this is one of the ones that I wanted. It's a tulip poplar, Liriodendron tulipifera for the scientific name. And this one we just stopped and looked at because it actually has very, very good form for it. As you're going up, you're noticing that the branches have great spacing, there's no cross branching, and it has a really, really, really nice straight leader. So this is the kind of stuff that you're looking for in purchasing a great tree. Not to say anything about Lowe's or Home Depot. It's like, yeah, you can go there and you can get trees that look really, really nice, but a lot of them, since they're just looking at price point and price point only, they're gonna go with the cheapest plant all the time. So you may not get a tree that's had the time and effort put into it to make it look nice and straight and to make sure that it doesn't have crossing branches. You could have something that could look like a darn Z or a curlicue or something like that, because people are only going to put the amount of money into a tree when they're growing it that they're getting paid for it. So this tree, while it is expensive, you're getting a great product compared to something that might be a little bit cheaper but might have some more problems. All right, so here we're showing a different type of tree. This is a river birch. We always talk about the right tree in the right place. This is a great tree. It's a fast growing tree, but you don't want to plant it right next to your house. You want to plant it about 15 feet out from your house. You see all around Lexington and all kinds of places where people will plant this right next to their house. This thing's fast growing, has an aggressive root system. If you plant it too close, it's going to get in your foundation. It's going to cause all kinds of problems. Right, so here we have a Kentucky coffee tree. You know, we've been talking about form, trying to find a straight leader and all that kind of stuff. I will tell you that you can find a Kentucky coffee tree with a straight leader and nice branching and all that kind of stuff, but it's really difficult. These are one of the harder trees to grow straight in the nursery because they want to do what they want to do. You can stake them and train them and try to prune for a leader, but all these specimens that we have here are all acceptable trees that you would want to plant on your landscape, in the landscape of a Kentucky coffee tree. You're not going to notice this when this tree gets to its true potential. It'll still be doing what it wants, but it's going to look like a true Kentucky coffee tree. This is a great street tree. It's tolerant of a lot of stuff, a lot of different sites. Pretty much this tree will grow anywhere. I think I could even keep this alive. I'm not known for having a green thumb, but I'm pretty sure I could keep a Kentucky coffee tree alive. All right, so we've been talking about bald and burlap trees, container trees, bare root trees, native trees. We've been talking about large shade trees. Well, we've talked about earlier about the right tree in the right spot, and we've yet to talk about a small tree. Well, we have one here for you. This is a Sweetbay magnolia. It's gonna have a really nice fragrant flower, semi-evergreen, and it's only going to get about 25 foot tall. So if you have a small place that you want to plant one in, like a patio, you can fit that in there. If you want to put something under, if you got some power lines, you're worried about it getting power lines, you can use this. It makes a great accent plant when you get it in a multi-trunk form. And we also, you see it mostly in the multi-trunk form, and you see it planted on like the corner of houses, around patios. But another thing, this thing can make a nice ornamental small shade tree as well, if you get it what's available in the single trunk form, which we have here. Now this is a beautiful tree. You can let it go crazy and let it go all natural, or you can trim it up into its ornamental form.
So this is one of my personal favorite smaller trees, and that's the pawpaw. It's a native tree, and I like it because it makes delicious fruit, especially some of these cultivars like they're selling here. The other nice thing about it is that it's not going to grow too tall. So if you've got a space that you really can't grow that high into, it's going to stay a smaller tree. And there really are some great smaller trees for those areas.
All right, so we're back to small trees again. Flowering ornamentals was considered an understory tree or an edge of the woods tree would be your flowering dogwood. Some people, you see it all the time, they plant them in direct sunlight with no shade and they seem to be thriving well. I don't understand how that works, but I guess some of them do better in direct sunlight than others. But if you had a nice mature trees like some, I don't know, some nice tall oaks, something you could fit this under, this would make a great addition to your landscape, especially if you, like I said, you already have some mature trees and you want to come in and put some color in early spring and then a nice tree after that. You could put in your red buds or your flowering dogwoods. All right, so here we've been talking about ball and burlap trees. We've been talking about container trees. This is kind of a container tree too, but I don't know. This is what you would consider maybe a liner tree or something that could possibly be planted bare root. Not everybody wants to handle a big tree. These trees have their place too. It's like Ellen said, or like Ellen has said before, is that, you know, there's no right answer. Now, if you do want to buy a smaller tree, you're going to have to put some work into it to make it a nice specimen. You're going to have to work on the leader yourself and you're going to have to prune for structure on your tree. Whereas if you buy a bigger tree, you know, the nurseries put a lot of work into it. What we have here is a straight species white oak, and I will let you know this is a Kentucky proud tree. It was grown by a nursery that was over in Paris that is sold to Springhouse Gardens, available for people to come and plant in their yard.
So thanks for joining us today. We had fun. I hope you had fun too. Make sure you visit your independently owned retail garden center this week, buy a tree and plant it and enjoy it for years to come. If you want to learn more, make sure to check out the website and hope to hear from you if you have any questions.